Chapter 1494. Rao Rong replied. The voice is clear, I'm gay for you. Coco replied. Shouldn't the successful confession be treated to a meal? Yin Wuyao replied. Youngsters these days can't be compared. Lin Chuntao replied. I'm gay for you, I'll repeat this sentence today. Feng Shang replied. Repeat, +1. His phone vibrated in his jacket pocket. Lin Feng didn't need to look to know what was going on in the chat group. F***CK. As his longtime ally, Bojiu wasn't going to let go of such an interesting Lin Feng. You can't even turn gay. Do you need Almighty Yin to clean you up and send you to your room? Lin Feng didn't want to speak. He turned his head and started to calm down. Bojiu leaped down the stairs, her clothes fluttering. She reached out and patted his shoulder, her voice deep. Think about it. The difference between taking the initiative and being passive. This is the most important factor in determining your position in bed. Don't say that your ally doesn't want to help you. If you were the one who asked, you would be able to. Before Lin Feng could wrap his head around it, he had been instilled with such thoughts. The worst part was he had actually listened. No, little spade. Is it appropriate for a girl like you to discuss such a topic with me? Lin Feng's voice was similarly deep. Bojiu laughed lightly. We're both adults. Do you want to be the one being attacked? Lin Feng inhaled deeply. Yes. Isn't that enough? Bojiu retracted her hand. All right, plan carefully. Send me a message if you don't understand. Now let's go watch a movie. Lin Feng lowered his head and took a look. In the team's discussion group, he was listed as Little Submissive Lin. He seemed to have made up his mind, glancing over at Yin Hu. Yin Hu didn't hear their conversation. Lin Feng's, I'm already gay for you, you have to give me some mental preparation, was enough to make him so happy he didn't need to hear anything else. If there wasn't someone beside them, he would probably have pushed him against the wall and bullied him. Qin Mo, who could guess what she was talking about, glanced over when she came back, brushing her hair. Does being mischievous make you happy? How can this be called mischievous? I'm helping to warm up their relationship. Otherwise, when would I be able to see little submissive Lin suffering from back pain? Bojiu spoke righteously, but the smile in her eyes betrayed her evil intentions. Little submissive Lin still didn't understand who had the stronger aura. This was something that had long been decided. Yin Hu didn't look like the one at the bottom, and he wouldn't be the one at the bottom. Little submissive Lin was still too naive. However, it was quite interesting to see little submissive Lin trying his best to make a comeback. The four of them returned to the crowd through the fire escape. The people behind them probably didn't see them. They bumped into Lin Feng but didn't apologize and just walked forward. Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. Just as he was about to call him back, he saw that person pull out a chair and sit opposite Beauty Luo. From this angle, the people in the coffee shop couldn't see outside. But the four people outside could see inside. Bojiu raised a brow. What's going on? Didn't you see the Almighty's discussion group? Lin Feng glanced sideways. Luo is on a blind date. Blind date? Bojiu paused. She realized that he definitely didn't want anyone to see such an occasion. Any girl wouldn't want to face such a situation. Especially a girl like Beauty Luo. She lifted her feet and was about to leave. But the conversation on the other side was still heard. The man looked very greasy. He probably came from a rich family. From the moment he sat down, the first thing he said was, the matchmaker didn't exaggerate things. Miss Luo is not bad-looking and tall. She is a good match for me. Luo didn't say anything. She just smiled. After all, she couldn't tell how 168 meters and 169 meters were compatible. Was there only a difference of 1 centimeter? Luo was still very polite. This was her expression when she was talking to strangers. The man drank a mouthful of water. His eyes didn't move away from Luo. He sized her up. But I'm different from other men. I don't look at looks. The most important thing is temperament and upbringing. I heard that Miss Luo's education isn't very high. Is that right? MH. Luo was thinking about when she was going to leave. The man frowned. That's why you play games. The matchmaker did mention this. Your main job is to play games. Luo's fingers paused. She looked up. It's esports. Yes, esports. The man said this, but he acted as though there wasn't any difference between the two. My family business is big. You should have heard about it before you came. My mother is a teacher. She is quite open-minded, but it's better for boys to play games. After all, we eat our youth. I heard that other than you, there aren't any other girls in your team? Luo only gave him one word. Yes. That's not very good. The man looked at Luo with a different gaze. He seemed to be scrutinizing and reminding her. It's important to maintain a distance from the opposite sex. Luo raised her eyebrows. There was a different kind of beauty when she spoke slowly. Mr. Zhang, what do you mean? Miss Luo, don't misunderstand. I'm just asking casually. The man smiled. Luo turned her hand and sent the matchmaker a message saying, "We are not suitable." She was about to stand up. I have 3 houses in this city, one of which can be used as a wedding house. You can decorate it according to the style you like. After all, the cost of decorating a wedding house is usually borne by the bride. You have played games for so many years, so you should have some savings. Overall, I am very satisfied with Miss Luo. As for the rest, I will discuss it with my mother. You should know that in the eyes of an educator, academic qualifications are very important. After dinner, let's walk around and get to know each other better. Luo didn't expect that at this moment. The man spoke again. I heard that you can earn a lot of money by playing games. The matchmaker has also communicated with me. I don't approve of girls showing their faces outside, but I also respect women who work. It's just that your occupation is not very orthodox. Luckily, the matchmaker said that you are about to resign, and that's fine too. I've seen many professional gamers who don't compete and just do live broadcasts at home to earn a lot of money, as long as you pay attention to your attire during the broadcast. I'm a very open-minded person, and it's easy to mediate family matters. You should also understand my job. That aunt of yours from the county town came to me for treatment. Chapter 1495. Luo interrupted him. She stood up with her slender legs. I don't think we need to get to know each other better. We aren't compatible. The man probably hadn't expected to be rejected. His eyes widened. Then he took a deep breath and said loudly, "Isn't it just a lousy gamer? Why are you so arrogant?" Luo glanced back. Her gaze was cold. I'll tell you one more time. I play esports. Miss Luo, you don't seem to know. I've heard about you. You're a girl with no background. You were able to become a professional gamer because you did things that others weren't willing to do. You're good now, but who knows where your money came from? You imitated other people's moves, hugged the thighs of professional gamers, and used your beauty to enter the eyes of the higher-ups. Don't keep saying that you play esports. No matter how nice you sound, you're just a peripheral gamer who plays games that are slightly more advanced. That's right, Luolan said. Because Luo was beautiful, many people had been looking at her when she had first entered the shop. Moreover, the two of them looked like they were on a blind date. Everyone was curious. Hence, the moment the man spoke, almost all the gazes in the cafe focused on Luo. There were some who liked to play games too. Previously, because of the direction Luo was sitting in, they could only see her back view. Now they could even see her face. Their eyes were filled with curiosity. She must be Goddess Luo. So the things online are true. What did I say? Which girl doesn't fake her moves when she plays games? This isn't anything new. She imitated others and then started to accompany the higher-ups. She just did a good job in public relations. No one found out. When the sound of whispering could be heard, Luo's entire face turned pale. There were some things that didn't seem to matter no matter what you said. People would only believe what they were willing to believe. Until now, Luo still couldn't forget the first time she had entered a professional team. A reputable person in the circle, who was known to be the most willing to help newcomers, had sat at the table and told her that if she was willing, she could get as much money and connections as she wanted. With Luo's temper, she would definitely not agree. After apologizing, she stood up. But in the end, he was still a member of the team. Because the line was pulled by the club, it was impossible to act like in the TV dramas, where a cup of water was splashed over. In reality, Luo had been a little scared at that time. At that time, She had never imagined that such things existed in her favorite industry. Even her left hand was trembling when she walked out. She had originally thought that her agent would stand up for her after hearing about what had happened. Unexpectedly, her manager only said, "Pretend that nothing happened. Luoluo, this is for your own good." Luoluo was indignant, especially when she heard that person say that she was completely impolite and her skills were average. Impulsively, he replied on the internet. The man changed the topic and talked about what happened last night. He said, "Girls need to be reserved. It's easy for people to misunderstand you when you're so proactive. You used to be cold and hardworking before, but when you're at the table, you're completely different. You don't need to wear revealing clothes, but some of your actions are so passionate that it makes people uncomfortable." A lot of people started to follow suit, basically asking for details. There was no lack of people in the industry who would give you an answer. Another girl in the team jumped out and pretended not to know anything. "No wonder Sister Luoluo wasn't with us last night. She had another dinner appointment. That's weird. After all, Sister Luoluo doesn't look like that kind of person." As expected of the old saying, you can't judge a book by its cover. Luoluo couldn't remember how many people had guessed her at the start. It was just that in every match, he would always receive strange looks from the audience. That kind of gaze, when it landed on her body, she would always want to open her mouth and say something. But at the same time, she realized that no matter what she said, no one would listen to her. Because they would ask her why she didn't say anything back then. They would even say that if she wasn't willing, she shouldn't go. Or perhaps it was all for money. If not, they would have caused a ruckus a long time ago. From the time the incident happened to the time she left the team, she had experienced the darkest days of the 3 months. It wasn't that she hadn't thought of giving up. When she was alone, she just wanted to cry. But she couldn't cry because there were many people looking at her, waiting for her to fall. Even if they couldn't replace her position, they could use her as a topic to talk about her. It would make them feel that they were facing a common enemy. During the live stream, the bullet screen was filled with scolding. Even so, she had to go online on time to play the game. If not, she would feel guilty and didn't dare to face the public. This matter followed her into Xiangnan. Then, after the results of the competition were released, her attitude gradually improved. Luoluo really thought that she could prove herself this way. But now, from the looks of it, that wasn't the case. People would only see what he wanted to see. For a moment, Luoluo would think about what exactly she was persevering for. It was too difficult to admit that she was a lousy gamer. It was too difficult to just treat playing games as a money-making job. But so what? No one would believe that she truly loved it. The man looked at Luoluo's expression and became even more delighted. "That's why I said that one shouldn't be too arrogant. Those things about you are no longer spread. Do you really think that you are a goddess that people are fighting over?" But this time, before he could finish his sentence, a lazy voice interrupted him. However, she was interrupted by a lazy voice. She has always been a goddess. It was Bojio. She stuffed one hand into her pocket and walked over. Her handsome face didn't seem feminine at all. On the contrary, because of her messy silver hair and black windbreaker, she gave off an impactful aura. Chapter 1496. The man's face was filled with emotions. After all, he was used to being flattered. He had never encountered such a situation before. He could even hear the discussions around him. They seemed to be pointing at him. The man flew into a rage. "Miss Luo, you are really interesting. Since you already have a man, why did you come out for a blind date?" Bojio's eyes narrowed. She tugged the man's collar and smiled devilishly. "Mr. Zhang's eyesight isn't good. Which eye of yours saw that I'm a man? But it is true. As a man, you aren't even as tall as a lady. It isn't strange for you to have such thoughts. Men hated it the most when people made an issue of their height. Right now, he wanted to tear them apart. Hearing the laughter around him, his voice deepened. "These days are really sick. There are so many people who are neither male nor female. Come to think of it, for someone like Miss Luo, only someone like you is fit to be with someone like you." When Luoluo heard this, the look in her eyes changed. She took a step forward. But her wrist was suddenly pulled back. Her back was pressed into an embrace that smelled like research water. That smell was very familiar. Every time she encountered a weakness during training, he would hold her mouse and demonstrate a more accurate way to play. He would hold her mouse behind her back and demonstrate a more accurate way to play. Even though they were often together, they had never been so close to each other. Luoluo couldn't help but look at his slender fingers. Even though they were often together, they had never been so close to each other. When she lowered her head, her long hair landed on his wrist. Luoluo froze. Why was he here? How much did he hear? Luoluo didn't want him to see her weakness, regardless of which aspect it was. Is this what you meant by something? Xiao Jing was wearing a white coat. He must have come out of the research institute just now. When he turned his head, his side profile was handsome and cold. Luoluo felt the distance between his thin lips and hers. She paused for a moment. I thought it would be settled quickly. Xiao Jing looked at her with a deep gaze. He didn't say anything. He didn't let go of her wrist either. Instead, his gaze landed on the man in front of him. The man was arrogant at the start, but when he saw Xiao Jing's face clearly, he froze. It was not because of anything else, but because they were all in the medical profession. However, this was the difference. They all wanted to listen to each other's lessons. He became a professor at a young age. It was basically impossible for it to exist in the country. But there was such a person. He did medical research. But what was more impressive was that his ability to perform organ surgery had already reached the international level. The man didn't expect that a gamer would know such a person. It could be seen that he didn't pay attention to esports at all. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been oblivious until now. The person he wanted to curry favor with in real life was the captain of the Xiangnan team, Dr. Xiao. The man laughed dryly, trying to salvage something. It's a misunderstanding. It's all a misunderstanding. Chapter 1497. If the man's expression had been colorful just a moment ago, his expression was stiff and he couldn't help but smile. Anyone with eyes could see how big the gap between the two of them was. Even a passerby who didn't understand esports could see the difference in them. With such a handsome boyfriend, she didn't need to go on a blind date. Moreover, Xiao Jing was wearing a pair of gold-rimmed spectacles and a white coat. He looked like a doctor who had walked out of a manga. His aura was extraordinary. Luoluo, who was in his hands, looked like a typical handsome man and beautiful woman. They were a perfect match. Whether it was in terms of height or appearance, it gave people a pleasant feeling. It seemed as though only such a man could suppress Luoluo's beauty. Hence, it wasn't a sin for a girl to be beautiful. It depended on the person who matched it. After Xiao Jing finished speaking, he wasn't the only one standing there. Even Lin Feng, Yun Hu and Qin Emo walked over, along with the silver-haired Bo Jiu. The few of them lined up in a row. There were people of all types. The scene was even more eye-catching than a gathering of celebrities. Just Qin Mo's face alone was enough to cause a wave of screams. It was a pity he was wearing a mask today. Even so, he attracted everyone's attention. Oh my god, that's almighty Qin. F***ck, I've lived long enough to see him. There's also Feng Yun and Little Spade. He's so handsome. I'm so happy to see so many male almighties in one go. Honestly, judging from his posture, he is definitely here to support Goddess Luo. I've been wanting to say this. What right does that blind date guy have to pick on our goddess? No one knows what happened in the past, but from the content of his words, it's obvious that he's a straight mama's boy. As a man, he has the cheek to ask a woman to earn money for him. He even said it in such a dignified manner, and despised the woman's education. Goddess Luo's self-restraint is considered good. If it was me, I would have splashed coffee on his face. I really don't understand the thoughts of the people who believe in him. His face must be hurting from the slap when he sees me, almighty Xiao. The blind date guy listened to the comments around him, and looked at the group of people opposite him. He felt his face burning. Because everyone standing there was a head taller than him. The blind man wanted to leave. She's the best sorcerer in Xiangnan, second to none. When she's competing overseas, even if there's constant pressure on her, she doesn't give up. It's all because she wants to see China's national flag fly in other places. When the referee neglects to play a Chinese song, she'll remind him that she's not just a game. She's the only female sorcerer in our country who's ranked in the world. Even if she doesn't work in this industry in the future, she's still worthy of respect. Forgive me for being blunt, but you have no right to criticize her. As these words rang in Luolua's ears, the unwillingness and grievances she felt just now seemed to disappear instantly. Your hard work and love. Chapter 1498. Now that things had escalated to such a stage, the blind date guy didn't have the face to stay there anymore. His back view looked as though he was escaping. Lin Feng tilted his head and said to Yinhu, "Have you ever heard Xiao Jing say so many words in the past?" No. Yinhu noticed that he was leaning over. He held onto the popcorn and moved closer to Lin Feng. Lin Feng himself didn't notice anything wrong. He muttered to himself, "We've fought so many matches, but I haven't heard him say many words. Today this guy probably said a year's worth of words in one go. He must be anxious." Bo Jiu lifted her lips and joined in the gossip. How did he know that Luolua was here? Lin Feng straightened his back and revealed his canine teeth. Of course, I had the foresight to inform him. Well done. Bo Jiu sounded lazy. I didn't expect Senior Lin to be so smart. Lin Feng. This didn't sound like a compliment. Today's day was also very different from the rest. From the two at the start, there were 4 of them, and now, there were 6 of them. They stood there majestically. All of their looks were on point. It was indeed eye-catching. Hey, will we be recognized? Lin Feng asked again. Bo Jiu glanced over. Senior, you're really slow. F***CK, what should we do? Lin Feng didn't want to be chased. Besides, he wasn't in a good state today. Bo Jiu straightened. There won't be anyone staring at you if you check in. At the start, Lin Feng felt that it was a good idea. He felt the same when he sat down. But after 30 seconds had passed, Fang Jingji's expression changed. Only then did he realize that something was wrong. The people sitting in this row were all couples. Only he and Yin who were males. Lin Feng could feel the 2 girls in front of him turning back to look at them. He was too naive. How could he believe Little Spade's words? No one was staring at him. To make himself look less awkward, Lin Feng reached over to grab a handful of popcorn and stuffed it into his mouth. Unexpectedly, he grabbed Yinhu's hand. As if he had been electrocuted, Lin Feng's back suddenly stiffened. He explained, I just want to eat some popcorn." "I know," Yinhu said, but he didn't let go of his hand. Instead, he interlocked their fingers and hung by the side of the seat. The cinema was already very dark, so no one would have seen this scene. However, Lin Feng felt that the temperature between his fingers was extremely high. It was so high that he couldn't help but tilt his head. His heart was beating so fast that it felt like it was about to jump out. He did not know if it was because he was worried about being seen by others, or simply because he was holding his hand. In fact, none of the 6 people who came were watching the movie carefully. Qin Emo placed his hand behind her back, caressing her hair casually. Suddenly, he seemed to have thought of something. He turned and said in a low voice, "The next time we watch a movie, we'll do it together." Immersing. Bo Jiu raised her eyebrows in confusion. Chapter 1499. Bo Jiu paused. She glanced over and coughed lightly. The Almighty was probably the only one who could say something like that with an indifferent face. Even though they weren't holding hands, Qin Emo unwrapped a candy and tapped it on Bo Jiu's lips. Luoluo found it hard to imagine that the arrogant person who looked down on everyone would do such a thing one day. There was not the slightest hint of incongruity. Even when the 2 of them were together, they looked like a good match. Bo Jiu was still wearing a black jacket. She exuded a punk vibe, looking extremely dashing. She looked at him for a while, and when her right hand dropped down, it brushed against Xiao Jing's shoulder. Xiao Jing tilted his head, still not saying much. Popcorn. Luoluo shook her hand. After interacting with him for so many years, this was the first time she felt awkward. It was probably because of the blind date. She couldn't really look at that face. In fact, he was always by this person's side. It's really hard to fall for other men. In the past, he always wore a battle uniform, but now he was wearing a white coat. Luoluo had always known the difference between the two of them. Ever since she found out about the other party's background, she no longer had any other thoughts. However, compared to his proud background, Lin Fan was not as arrogant as him. What she felt the most inferior about was her educational background. In the esports industry, there were very few people who could still play well after the age of 20. She had entered the circle too early. At that time, she probably loved it too much. In order to enter a professional team, she didn't even think about learning or not. When she really came into contact with it, she realized that whether it was the live streaming platform or the club, there would be a huge influx of people every time they recruited. She did play well, but in order to stand out in the crowd, a long period of high-intensity training was essential. Not only her, but most of the people were the same. The outside world probably didn't understand where their pressure came from. In a small city, the internet industry was not developed at all. No matter how things developed, in their eyes, you were just a lousy game. Compared to people of the same age who were already immersed in their studies, entering a professional team to play esports was simply a fool's dream. Back then, it wasn't like now, where they could only get a small basic salary. Because he hadn't officially joined the competition yet. Many people told themselves that they had to persevere. As long as they made it through, nothing was impossible. Luoluo wouldn't underestimate the decisions made by some girls at that time. People who have not experienced it. He probably didn't understand. How much pressure did he have to bear? I only think of one thing, I want to get through this. When they were on the field, the fans would only see their brightest side. More than 10 hours of training every day. Every match would have a record of the data. You have to keep your form. Usually, there would be a total of 50 people trained, and in the end, only 1 or 2 would be left as substitutes. The others will give you the money for the train and let you go home. This was the truest life they had ever led. She and the person who could do scientific research while playing games, and even had a certain level of attainment in the medical field, were like two different worlds. She likes money too much. Without money, there was no sense of security. As for him, he had never been short of money. He was as clear and bright as the moon. It wasn't that he hadn't thought of confessing. He remembered when Xiangnan won the championship in the first national competition. Chapter 1500. When he finally arrived at the unfamiliar environment, he felt a chill run down his spine. Luoluo felt that they weren't from the same world. It wasn't a big deal when they were in the team because they talked about games the most. There were times when she couldn't get a word in. But it was different in university. She saw a girl sitting beside him, and they were talking about things she couldn't understand. And that was the first time she realized that he could smile outside of a competition. Luoluo sat there and looked at the two of them. They had the same aura and one look, and she could tell that they were from the same family. The girl exuded a gentle aura from head to toe. She was dressed elegantly and had a strong scholarly aura. She was completely different from her. Luoluo never felt inferior, but at that moment, she experienced the difference between them. The girl smiled lightly and looked at her. "Are you Senior's teammate? He's always strict with himself, but he's never picky with others. We were talking about medicine just now and neglected you. You're not upset, are you?" "No." Luoluo stood there with her long and slender legs. She watched as the person walked out with his book. He glanced at her and asked, "Aren't you leaving?" Luoluo followed behind him, just like how she always followed behind him during competitions. She said impulsively, "Captain, what do you think about dating people in the industry?" "I'm not interested." The person didn't even turn his head. He didn't speak much. These 4 words made Luoluo understand one thing. Fortunately, she didn't confess excitedly. If that was the case, the situation would have been awkward. "What's wrong?" Xiaojing glanced back and frowned. Luoluo shook her head and followed behind him. However, during the afternoon training, she wasn't in her best condition. She didn't even play well during the live stream. From that day onwards, she understood that as the only female member of the Xiangnan team, he took care of her because of his upbringing. He had never done anything intimate with her. At most, he would occasionally straighten her collar when she went on stage. He was her captain. But he was her captain. Even if she had thousands of thoughts in her heart, she couldn't break this balance. She was about to retire, so she couldn't do anything stupid. This way, they would have the chance to meet in the future, and it wouldn't be awkward. Luoluo lowered her gaze and took a sip of the drink in her hand. On their left sat Feng and Yin, while on their right sat Bojiu and Qin Mo. Being stuck in the middle like this was really easy for people to misunderstand. Luoluo could only try her best to lean towards Bojiu, but for some reason, it attracted the attention of that person. He just looked at her and said nothing. This made Luoluo feel even more uncomfortable. In the captain's world, there was no such thing as a blind date. That was why he was sizing her up like this. Don't tell Zhao Samping about what happened today. If he finds out, the entire team will know. Xiao Jing looked at the chagrin on her beautiful face and said indifferently, "This is the first time you've lied." Ha! Luoluo couldn't keep up with her captain's thoughts. Xiao Jing didn't bother to say much and just tapped his wrist. Luoluo finally remembered that she had indeed found an excuse to not tell the truth, because she had come for a blind date. Let's go. Xiao Jing stood up first. Luoluo thought that he probably didn't want to sit in such an ambiguous position. Lin Feng lowered his voice. Mu Xiao, where are you going? The movie isn't over yet. Go back and train. Xiao Jing's words were simple. Lin Feng tilted his head and said to Luoluo, "Is your captain so insensitive? It's probably his first time watching a movie with a girl. He doesn't even know how to place his hands." Luoluo raised her eyebrows. "How do you know?" At this moment, Lin Feng wasn't shy anymore. He lifted Yin Hu's hand. "Let me demonstrate." Luoluo paused. "Stop fooling around, little submissive Lin." Lin Feng wanted to say something, but Bojiu opened her mouth at this moment. She supported her chin with her left hand. The black earrings on her ears were still glowing. "All right, Senior Lin, Luoluo and Almighty Xiao should have other things to do." When she mentioned other things, Bojiu's gaze was profound. Lin Feng waited for the two of them to leave before leaning over and asking, "Why did you let them go?" The cinema is a place to cultivate feelings. It can also enlighten Mute Zhao's stone-like brain, and let him get a taste of love. As for cultivating feelings, you and Almighty Yin can do it together. Bojiu smiled devilishly. Sometimes a stone needs more stimulation. Lin Feng sighed. Honestly, I didn't think that Luoluo liked Xiao Jing in the past. Aren't you the one she loves the most? You are her only almighty. Don't push the blame on me for your slowness. Bojiu gestured for him to return to Yin Hu's side. Lin Feng was like an auntie in the industry, worrying endlessly. I've known them for so many years. Mute Xiao probably only treats Luoluo as his team member. He has never thought of her in that direction. Luoluo will probably beg for it, but no matter what, we can't let her go on blind dates again. Is there no one else in our industry? Wasn't there a fan who sent 10 cruises to Luoluo's livestream to express his love for her? Someone in the team I know has also said that Luoluo is his only goddess in the industry. Is that so? Bojiu caressed her chin with her fingers. Suddenly she smiled suavely. Who is that person? Introduce them in the Almighty's WeChat discussion group and arrange a meeting. Lin Feng slapped his forehead. Why didn't I think of this? It's good to let Luoluo meet him to calm her down. My friend is good at making people happy and he is handsome. He has liked Luoluo for a long time. That's not bad. Bojiu seemed to have thought of something. She smiled. The better the person, the more exciting it will be. The noble Qin Mo didn't say a word. He just glanced sideways at a certain someone. Lin Feng frowned. Why do I feel that your smile doesn't have any good intentions? Am I? Bojiu was nonchalant. I'm contributing to Luoluo's marriage. After all, she is one of the few esports players I like. Aren't you the same? Lin Feng looked serious. I like her the most among the female players. Is that so? Yin Hu glanced at Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't realize what danger was. He nodded and said, yes. Yin Hu's eyes dimmed. This was probably his insecurity. He was a straight man through and through. His love for girls would always be stronger than for boys. Even if it wasn't that kind of love. It made him jealous. Yinhu pinched a piece of popcorn with his fingers. He played with it. He was thinking about how he could make her his. Chapter 1501. The movie was still going on. After chatting for a while, Lin Feng was finally able to watch the content. Just as he decided to enjoy it and relax, Yinhu's voice rang in his ears again. Do you like him that much? This time, when he spoke, he was slightly closer to him. It seemed like he was taking the drink beside him, but in reality, he was asking him. Lin Feng wanted to nod instinctively, but he heard him say, you better think about it before you answer, boyfriend. Man, boyfriend or something. Just these 3 words made Lin Feng's heart skip a beat. He tilted his head, his gaze landing on that person's handsome face. He wasn't so naive that he couldn't read his expression. After coughing lightly, he corrected himself. It's not like, it's pure admiration for the opponent, just like how I admire Zhao Sampang. Look at how fat he is, I admire him. After hearing this explanation, Yinhu felt slightly better. After putting down the drink, he didn't retract his hand. Instead, he held onto Lin Feng's hand like before. Hence, the straight Lin Xiaofeng tugged at his collar unnaturally from the start to the end. He still wasn't used to it. Other than the awkwardness, his heart kept beating wildly like an ADHD child. Yinhu could tell that. He knew that there were some things he needed to slowly get used to. He was well aware of how straightforward Lin Feng was. In the past, there had been people who had thoughts about him. They would always be kicked away by him with brute force. F***ck, look carefully, I'm a man. Isn't it disgusting? It was normal for a straight man to hate a gay man. It wasn't like what people said about straight man cancer. After all, no one was willing to be targeted by someone they couldn't accept. Hence, it was enough for Yinhu to reach this step. As for the rest, he would take it step by step. He wasn't someone to be trifled with. He had to have a platonic relationship. He wanted to have him. He had wanted it since puberty. Until now. Lin Feng didn't notice Yinhu's gaze. In order to divert his attention, he focused on the Almighty's WeChat discussion group. He was emphasizing that he was the one with the aura. World's most handsome fatty. Your aura isn't even worth mentioning in front of Yinhu. Lin Feng, how about this? If you really feel pain, come to me and cry in my arms. I've already gotten over love. This world looks at one's face, not one's gender. I'm already so handsome, there's really no challenge. Unless someone takes a liking to my talent, that would be the true love of my life. Bojiu saw the opportunity and said, it will be difficult for you to find your true love. World's most handsome fatty. Little Spade, stay away from Qin Mo in the future. What have you learned? It was just a normal conversation. Suddenly someone said, by the way, someone said that Luoluo went on a blind date? Luoluo went to have a date with him. Bojiu's voice was calm. What does it matter if it's real or fake? Luoluo has been single for so many years. Isn't it normal for them to meet each other for a meal? The man continued. So it's true? It seems like Luoluo's dark history was dug out. Bojiu narrowed her eyes, the edges of her lips turning cold. 2 messages popped up in the group chat. The person had been kicked out of the group. Other than Qin Mo, who was sitting beside her, there was another person. Chapter 1502. Xiaojing. When Bojiu saw this name, she raised her eyebrows and a playful look appeared in her eyes. Then she nudged Lin Feng. Senior. Lin Feng glanced over. What? Hurry up and ask your friend to meet Luoluo. I feel that something interesting is going to happen. Lin Feng didn't understand why Little Spade was suddenly so interested in introducing people. But there was something he had to say in the group chat. Good kick. Spadesy. Good kick +1. This discussion group was established a long time ago. Most of the people in it were there when the concept of professional teams came out. Then this discussion group was passed to Qin Mo and Xiaojing. The common idea was that they could gossip, but they didn't want those with messy thoughts. No matter what their profession was. Once they started to talk about other people's privacy, they might even talk about their appearance, education, and experience. Those who really played games weren't such people. The existence of the discussion group was for them to relax. Secondly, It was for them to exchange their thoughts and tease each other, even if they weren't in the same team, because they had the same profession. Hence, they respected each other. They also understood that it wasn't easy along the way. This was the original intention of establishing the discussion group. But it was obvious that some people had started to misinterpret it. They even posted the news of him being kicked on the forum. This way, Lualua would have a dark history. Some people said that he was too dictatorial. He didn't even allow people to talk about what he did. Almighty Xiao was so protective of a certain someone. Some people said that Lualua would forever be their goddess. However, no matter what they said, Lualua would always be their goddess. However, this scene would eventually become lonely, because on that day, after Lualua returned home, she didn't know why. She was supposed to livestream the next day. But after the movie ended, she played a round of games. She played a solo game with every sorcerer. This time when she played, people noticed the order of the heroes she used. The first sorcerer was the character she used on the first day she joined Xiangnan. The second sorcerer was the character she used when Xiangnan entered the National League. The third sorcerer was the character she used with Zhao Sampang and Captain Xiao to kill Qin Mo. The fourth mage was the character she had used when they won the first national championship. Someone once said that in that year, people had truly witnessed Goddess Luo's mage. She had strong control and damage output, and she had unleashed the strongest stream of consciousness. From then on, no one said that girls couldn't play professionally anymore. In each of the 4 games, she would talk about how to put on equipment, line up, how to steal money, and how to support the jungle. She didn't seem to have changed. After so many years, she still had the aura of a queen. When she smiled, she was very beautiful. Do you understand? A string of comments appeared on the screen. I'm still memorizing. Goddess Luo, wait a little longer. Many people had mentioned this before. You guys always said that our goddess Luo relied on her face. Alright, that's right, she was indeed beautiful. Even if she admitted that she was beautiful, there would still be people who would release her ugly photos. Or perhaps it was just playing esports. Was everyone relying on their looks now? What kind of custom was this? Chapter 1503. Her occasional mistakes would attract scolding. Similarly, there would be countless people standing behind him to support him. For a long period of time, Luoluo felt a sense of fear. She was afraid that her hand speed wouldn't be able to keep up. She was afraid that she wouldn't be able to perform well in the competition. These things seemed to have been covered up by her daily practice. Only when you truly had the skills could you not be completely defeated when everything came to you. But it was always like this day after day, year after year. There was one thing that she couldn't change. That was her state. When she saw Shui Yaoyao, she could be at ease. She believed that one day, someone would replace her. She liked that person the first time she saw her. It was as though she had a shadow of herself. It was time to make that decision. No matter how much she missed it. Luoluo stopped typing on the keyboard. She pointed the camera at her face and adjusted the black earpiece on her head. I'm going to say something next. I started gaming when I was 16. It has been 6 years now. During these 6 years, I got to know a lot of people. They are very cute. When I wasn't known, they told me to work hard. You can do it. When I entered the finals and appeared in front of everyone as the top sorcerer in the entire server, they said, look, that's the esports player I like. When I was at my lowest point, they said that they would never leave me. Hence, I feel that it's best to tell them face to face. I have decided to retire. The moment she said the last 5 words, the people in front of their screens froze. The fans who were still remembering the attire in the game were even more confused. The comments kept popping up. Retire? Why? It must be a lie, right? Goddess, tell me, you must be joking, right? What joke? It must be a publicity stunt. Change to another team and continue playing. The fans really believed it. I'm speechless. Can the one above stop talking first? Manager, where's the manager? The manager was a fan too. She was a hardcore fan. In reality, she already knew about this a few months ago. At that time, Boss Luo had mentioned it to them, but they hadn't expected it to happen so quickly. Everyone who had liked esports players didn't want to see them leave. No matter who he liked, it was the same. As a highly ranked sorcerer in the national server, the news of Luoluo's retirement was like a bomb on the internet. Someone immediately contacted Xiangnan's manager. The manager's reply was, "We respect the contestant's decision." In an instant, the news of Xiangnan team, Flawless Luoluo officially announcing her retirement from today, could be seen everywhere. Lin Feng didn't expect to come out after watching a movie. He hadn't thought of how to face Yin Hu had risen from brother to boyfriend. When she saw this message, she immediately wanted to ask Xiaojing for confirmation. What a joke. Luoluo retired. He retired just like that? Even if he were to retire, it should be on the national battlefield. No, the battlefield of the world. Before Lin Feng could make the call, Bojio reached out and held onto his wrist. What are you doing? Chapter 1504. It shouldn't have much to do with what Xiaojing said. Bojio swiped the screen twice. She lowered her eyes, revealing her long lashes. Her side profile didn't have the usual devilish vibe. Instead, a cold aura swept past her chin. Luoluo probably wanted to retire a long time ago. During the National League, she probably wanted to announce it, but Xiangnan lost. It wasn't a suitable time to do so. After all, the loser would be exposed to a lot of negative comments. Hence, she didn't say it back then. She kept it until now because she didn't want Xiangnan to suffer even more. She probably didn't want people to say that Xiangnan couldn't make it anymore. That's why she chose to say it today. It wasn't too early or too late, it was the perfect time. Lin Feng grabbed his hair when he heard Bojio's words. He became much quieter. It was because he knew very well that all of them would retire sooner or later. It was impossible for him not to feel depressed. Bojio placed her arm on his shoulder and changed her expression. Instead of thinking so much, why not let Luoluo retire without any regrets? Lin Feng didn't understand. How can she not have any regrets? There are so many male almighties in the industry. Is it difficult to give her a boyfriend? Bojio blinked her left eye, looking devilish. Lin Feng was instantly energized. He immediately opened his contact list and started contacting Bo Hu. When Yin Hu saw this, he stretched his hand out. "Pass me the car keys. I'm going down to warm up the car." Lin Feng didn't mind how intimate it was to ask for the car keys. He tossed the keys over casually. Bojio tilted her head and smiled. Then she lifted her chin. "Before introducing a boyfriend to Luoluo, do you need me to help you settle Almighty Yin?" Lin Feng widened his eyes. F***ck so fast? I'm not ready yet. Bojio had originally wanted to teach him some strategies. Why did it seem like he had thought about it for a long time? Isn't it better to decide on some things as soon as possible? Bojio went along with his words. When she revealed her canine teeth, her smile became more mischievous. Lin Feng pondered. That was indeed the case. Do you think Yin Hu will think that I'm forcing him? Bojio almost burst into laughter. Is it considered forcing someone I like? Almighty Yin would probably be more than happy to oblige. Lin Feng took a deep breath as if he had made an important decision. I understand. Bojio arched a brow. I haven't said anything and you already know? We just have to prepare the items. Lin Feng scoffed, looking extremely confident. Yin Hu can't beat me. Bojio curved her thin lips. I wish you success. Wait for my good news. Lin Feng wanted to bump fists with her. It was Qin Mo who blocked her way. Qin Mo glanced at Lin. Jiu, Qin. Jiu. With Bo Hu. With his words. E. With B. With. Chapter 1505. Half-half. Bojio's smile didn't change. As the vice captain of the Supreme Alliance, I have to care about the love lives of the team members. It's best if it can be digested internally. Oh. Qin Mo replied slowly. But don't let the goodies flow to others? You want Lin Feng to take the initiative? Are you sure you aren't being naughty? I saw that he wasn't in a good mood, so I wanted to divert his attention. Bojio paused. Luoluo's retirement was too sudden. Qin Mo was walking casually, but when he heard this, he glanced down. It won't be that fast. Not that fast. What did he mean? Before Bojio could ask, Chin Mo placed the popcorn in her hands. I'm done being Cupid with you. Isn't it time for you to go home and do what I like with me, Mrs. Chin? There was a type of person that you wouldn't understand if you didn't fall in love. Once you fell in love, you would realize. When there wasn't a competition, his life, other than sleeping and feeding the cat, would revolve around you. Undoubtedly, the Almighty was this type of person. Bojio glanced at Chin Mo, who was opening the car door. His face was so handsome that it seemed a little unreal. He didn't like to go out. It was hard to imagine that a decision he made could cause an economic upheaval in an entire city. When he had a video conference, he basically made her lie on the sofa with a bowl of sweets beside her. Anyway, he didn't allow her to leave his vicinity. He even made Princess watch her. Letting a cat look at her was basically an insult to her mobility. Hence, under normal circumstances, Bojio wouldn't be able to sit still. But the Almighty seemed to have a plan every time he dealt with her. Once she couldn't sit still, he would raise his eyebrows and glance at her. Solo in the game? Come. Bojio had always liked a solo match with the Almighty. But it was obvious that young Master Chin had never thought of going all out. Every time, he would place her on his long legs and the two of them would enter the game together. Even though they were playing a mobile game, that position affected Bojio's performance. Ever since the two of them had been together, this person was getting more and more devilish. Fortunately, she was the one who kept him. But recently, it was still a little difficult to subdue him. She didn't know if it was because she had flirted too much. Now the Almighty liked to hug her and talk to her while they played games. They would even go to the washroom. She wouldn't go. He smiled. What? Don't you want to come in and compare your size? She finally understood the feeling of having to fill up the hole that she had dug herself. She would lean against the door frame and whistle. When he went to the bathroom, she leaned against the door frame and whistled. It seemed that after blowing for 3 times, after that he wouldn't bring her to the washroom. Instead, he pressed her down on the sofa and bullied her. Or maybe it was spring, and someone was about to go to college. Chin Mo always felt his throat burning, even now. He tugged his collar open and turned the steering wheel. When he glanced sideways at a certain someone eating popcorn, his eyes darkened. Bo Lin. Chin and Lin. Bo Lin she. She didn't. Lin, emo Lin she. Luo emote. Emo bo Chin Lin Chin su fong. For I bo. Chapter 1506. Bojio was caught off guard. She watched as he took off his jacket slowly, and took a step back. She wanted to turn around and avoid him. As though he had expected her to do this, Chin Mo took a step forward and pressed down on her long legs. His handsome face was so abstinent that it made her heart race. Didn't you say at the cinema that you will accompany me when you come back, MMH? The popcorn Bojio was holding had already scattered. He took one and placed it between her lips. Then he lowered his head and kissed it gently. His breath was so fresh that she could smell the faint scent of mint. He was using the honey trap again. That was Bojio's only thought. She couldn't reject him. But every time she was bullied by Chin Mo, Bojio seemed to be pulled out of the water. Even though Chin Mo never went through with it, it was the same. Her long bangs fell down and covered her eyes. Bojio was still recovering when she heard him say, I'm going to cut my hair. Bojio didn't mind. She took his arm and used it as a pillow. His handsome and mischievous face seemed obedient. You don't want to cut it? Chin Mo played with her hair, his gaze lowered. Bojio closed her eyes. I'm too lazy to go out. Being a homebody was really contagious. Chin Mo said, get Madame Zhang to prepare it tomorrow. I'll cut it for you. You know how? Bojio opened her eyes lazily. Chin Mo caressed her head, his voice calm. I'm experienced. Bojio was curious. Who did you cut it for? Princess. Chin Mo remained expressionless. Bojio opened her eyes immediately. Brother Mo, are you serious? What do you think? Chin Mo asked. He was serious. Bojio tried. I need a handsome hairstyle. It can't be ruined. Why do you need to be handsome when you have a boyfriend? Chin Mo's voice was slow. I can't keep the gifts from the fans in the club. Bojio. What if a jealous boyfriend wants to ruin my hairstyle? I'm waiting online. It's urgent. The next day, Chin Mo didn't really ruin her hairstyle, but he did cut it at home. The hairdresser was at the side guiding her. The way Chin Mo held the scissors and wore a white coat made him look even more seductive. After the haircut, Bojio looked much more refreshed. There weren't any stray hairs on her forehead, and she looked like the school hunk. She was so handsome that the hairdresser couldn't help but sigh. Chin Mo brushed the stray hairs off his hands, changing out of his white coat and donning Supreme Alliance's uniform. His gaze was deep. So what if he was handsome? Other than him, no one else could have it. With this kind of situation, they would definitely be together in university. After the movie started, many people were asking who the Chinese teenager who acted as the hacker was. For a moment, the screen was flooded with topics. But soon, for some unknown reason, after just one night, these discussions suddenly disappeared. The director responded personally, saying that the actor was a friend of his, and that it was a friendly act. He had no intention of making his debut. That's why he said that. It was because he had received a call from Bojio. She had told him that she wasn't going to enter this industry. Chin Mo agreed with this point. Before this, he had sent a lot of companies to the club. Chapter 1507. The group of entertainment companies didn't dare to come again after hearing Chin Mo's words. The Chin group could easily kill them with a single move. Be it money or resources, they were the best in the entire industry. And fiancé cough 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 cough. It was easy to imagine the scene of the bosses of the entertainment companies choking. At that time, Chin Mo's assistant had been smiling from the side, thinking that flaunting his wealth wasn't the main point of his young master's words. The main point was to be proposed to. Boss Chin wanted the entire business circle to know that he was taken. Boss Lee, who had been asked by Chin Mo for advice on how to raise his brother, didn't receive any follow-up questions. There were also people who didn't change their minds and wanted to interact with Bojio alone. In the end, they realized that they had been too naive. Some people weren't people the media could follow even if they wanted to. The courtyard wasn't a place anyone could enter as they pleased. On the other hand, the retired big shots would often see Chin Mo bringing his little friend out for walks. Occasionally he would ask the child to help carry the flowers and ask, "Have you done your homework?" As someone who was used to being left alone, Bojio would stiffen every time she was asked such a question. "We can talk about something else." After reaching school, Bojio didn't sleep. Instead, she took a book and started revising. She couldn't be at a loss for words every time she returned home when the Almighty asked her what she had learned today. The blonde from second high came looking for someone. The gist of it was that he wanted to study hard too. Bojio was slightly taken aback. She sized him up. "Study? You?" The blonde gave her an expression that said, "Why can't I study hard for the person you love, who wants to get into a better university? Let me work harder." Bojio replied, "Who is that?" "You know." The blonde suddenly felt embarrassed. Bojio tapped her fingers. "You want me to tutor you? Isn't it obvious?" The blonde swept a glance behind him. "I wanted them to tutor me." Bojio followed his gaze and saw a few street bullies scratching their ears and cheeks. They didn't even understand middle school English. "You probably didn't improve. You're telling me all the wrong answers," the blonde said angrily. "Bojio, are you tutoring me or asking for answers?" "Expert, you have to save me." The blonde scratched the back of his head. "I can't do too badly. It doesn't show anything now. My mom said that when I enter society, it will depend on my education." Bojio arched a brow. "Wrong. Once you enter society, you will see who your father is." Blondie's face was stiff. "When I can't make it anymore, I'll go home and inherit the family property." Bojio stuffed a hand into her pocket. She seemed to have thought of something and leaned forward slightly. "Is education very important?" "In any case, her group of friends always think that I don't know anything. The way they look at me is really... Actually, I don't really care about it." Blondie tilted his head. "I don't want her to embarrass herself." Bojio's gaze dimmed. "What if the girl's education level is low? People will probably talk about her after she enters society. The blonde was deep in thought. I won't care. Some people with high education levels are tired of chatting. Do you know what they will talk to you about? They will discuss the progress of mankind and ask me how the theory of relativity came about. They will think that you don't understand because you are uncultured. Sigh, it's a blow. Chapter 1508. F***CK, my goddess just has to talk to me about games. The blonde glared. Do we need to talk about anything else? Bojio replied slowly. Is it appropriate for someone with a girlfriend to call another girl a goddess? My girlfriend is a Luo fan. I followed my girlfriend's footsteps to become a Luo goddess, the blonde replied seriously. Oh, Bojio replied. What do you think about her retirement? I hope it won't be so soon. The blonde was unusually serious. Bojio tilted her head, deep in thought. The blonde watched from the side. The more he looked, the more he felt that it was unfair for a girl to be so handsome. More importantly, he would unknowingly treat her as a boy. He thought about the recent events and couldn't help asking. Oh right, I have a request, expert. Can you not be so handsome the next time you appear? Bojio arched a brow. My girlfriend doesn't even look at me the moment you appear. She only stares at your video. The blonde sighed. I even got a haircut for her, but it didn't work. Bojio sized him up casually. No wonder your hairstyle is so similar to mine. Isn't it handsome? The blonde caressed his head, sending her an expression. Bojio laughed lightly. How dare you ask me if I'm handsome? Aren't you asking to be humiliated? The blonde. All right, let's get back to the main topic. Bojio played with the lighter in her hands. Don't look for me for revision. I'll give you a suggestion. Look for your girlfriend. You can revise while deepening your relationship. The blonde's eyes lit up. Expert, how did you think of such a good idea? Why else do you think I look for my almighty to revise? Bojio laughed. If you don't even have such a method to woo a beauty, how am I supposed to woo her? The blonde choked. Expert, does young Master Qin know that you call young Master Qin beauty? Why are you so concerned about the details? Bojio flipped the lighter, looking nonchalant. The blonde could tell that she wanted to smoke, so he took one and passed it over. Bojio swept him a glance, biting on a lollipop. I'm not smoking. Master, are you kidding me? It's fine if you don't skip classes, but you don't even smoke anymore. The blonde was shocked. Bojio replied. You have to be prepared to be clean when you get married. Quitting smoking isn't a big deal. Blondie. Young Master Qin probably doesn't know that you treat him as your wife. However, it was also the right choice to look for an expert. After all, he really didn't think that there was a way to improve their relationship while revising. This way he could ask that person to come to his house. The more the blonde thought about it, the redder his face became. Don't look at how pure he was. After thinking about it for a while, even his ears turned red. When the people from Second High saw him, they were a little confused. Boss, what's wrong with you? What do you mean? Go back and study. The blonde ordered. The few of them began to enter a state of selflessness again. They were the leaders of No. 2 middle school. And now they were holding an English book every day. Seriously, he couldn't even fight when he went out to fight. What could he say? The power of love was truly great. On the other hand, everyone from No. 1 middle school covered their mouths when they saw Bojio. Too cool. Chapter 1509. There must be some activity in the team today. Bojio wasn't wearing her school uniform. Instead, she was wearing a black uniform. She stood in the middle of a group of high school students. The current Bojio was completely different from when she had first arrived. She wasn't just a school hunk. She was like a celebrity but more mysterious than one. As an esports champion, she didn't spend much time in school. Moreover, she was about to graduate and there weren't any compulsory classes. Some students who were good at their craft had already left school. Hence, they had more freedom. One could imagine the reaction of the students when they saw her again. They walked round and round. Basically, there were cries of ah. Someone couldn't help but ask, Almighty Z, Why are you wearing your uniform today? They thought they wouldn't get an answer. Unexpectedly, the youngster stopped and said, Supreme Alliance is recruiting. Those who aren't dressed neatly will be punished. Recruiting? This word didn't just arouse the curiosity of the students. Even some esports platforms started to become active. Supreme Alliance was recruiting? Everyone knew that Supreme Alliance had been recruiting previously. That was when they met Spadesy. The election held by Supreme Alliance was still fresh in their minds. The FC King of Zone C had appeared for the first time. She had even brought back north of the Een Mountain, and the famous RMB player Feng Shang. This time, they didn't know if Supreme Alliance would be able to achieve the same result. They could imagine that it had been a year since they saw Spadesy. A year. Time passed so quickly. No wonder Goddess Luo wanted to retire. The news from the past 2 days made the esports players feel uneasy. Goddess Luo had started to retire. What about Sampang Almighty Xiao? Almighty Qin? They had entered the professional team at the same time. Even now, the video from that year was still on the internet. The three of them were beautiful in terms of positioning and awareness. No matter who they surrounded, they would be able to trap. But the person they had met back then was Qin Mo. It was undoubtedly a feast for the eyes. Even if they lost, it made people feel that Xiangnan's era was coming. Then it really came true. Qin Mo's hand was injured. In the Chinese esports industry, no one could stop the Xiangnan 3. From sorcerer to ADC, Luolua was experimenting. Because of this, people had a deep impression of it. This was probably the glory that belonged to them. Branded in their youth, how many people still remembered the days they had accompanied them? Emotions can't be stabilized. All the fans were the same, because they had a premonition that their favorite almighties would start to retire one after another. Even such an outcome was unacceptable. However, they also understood that some things could not be forced. At this moment, such a piece of news came. Supreme Alliance was recruiting. The most interesting thing was that Almighty Qin wasn't the examiner this time. It was Spadesy. A media reporter asked, Almighty Qin, why aren't you the chief examiner this time? I've made other preparations. Being asked like this, the fans thought about the issue of retirement again, and the uneasiness in their hearts just started to rise. In the video, Qin Mo tilted his handsome face and replied casually, No, I'm accompanying Madam to be the assistant examiner. Is there anything wrong with that? The media. Chapter 15:10. Ha 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 ha. I'm dying of laughter. I'm begging for the interviewer's heart. Honestly, you shouldn't have asked my Almighty Qin anything. He can answer any question. I feel like my Almighty Qin is insecure because his girlfriend is so handsome. I've been eating too much dog food recently, but I wouldn't mind another bowl. I'm looking forward to the recruitment this time. I wonder what kind of amazing person will appear. As the discussions continued, Supreme Alliance's recruitment became a hot topic that couldn't be ignored. As usual, Supreme Alliance would have an internal recruitment every year. Bojiu still remembered that she had met Feng Shang during the internal recruitment, but she hadn't done it back then. She had been young and aggressive and liked to challenge others easily. It hadn't changed now. As the main examiner, Bojiu had to sit in that position and not move around casually. After about 15 minutes, she became lazy and turned towards Qin Mo. Brother Mo. I'm going out to buy a bottle of water. This is just the first batch. Qin Mo replied calmly. You can't sit still after the first batch. Come back after you're done, don't run around. No problem. Bojiu straightened, stuffed her hands into her pockets and smiled as though she wanted to go out for some fresh air. Qin Mo was still watching the few screens in front of him. On the screens, there would be battle videos sent over through everyone's email. The standard requirement was a high-level solo match with random passers-by and replacement hero characters. What's more, Supreme Alliance paid particular attention to the depth of the hero pool during their recruitment. It was obvious they were looking for an all-rounder. But from the fact that Bojiu wanted to go out halfway through, it was obvious she wasn't interested. The Almighty had made her the main examiner, so that he could keep an eye on her. Bojiu caressed her hair and walked towards the machine. She inserted a few coins but hadn't pressed the button yet. Just then there was a loud thud. Something beneath her long legs clanked. At this moment, she realized there was another person there. It wasn't a tall person, but he wasn't small either. He was half squatting with a bottle of water and carrying a backpack of the same color. It was indeed hard to notice him. Their gazes met. Bojio was greeted with a small face the size of a palm, looking slightly noble. The little person paused when he saw her. Bojio arched a brow and turned, her gaze deepening. Her tone was like a teasing uncle. "Little girl, you look familiar. The red keyboard on your back is exposed." The little person was expressionless. "MMH," he replied, starting to organize his backpack. He seemed to recall something and passed her the bottle of water. Bojio's eyes flashed and she smiled. "I was wondering why you look so familiar. It's you, the little friend who gave me the tickets for the Asian Cup." "Godzi." The little person's voice was cold, but his ears were red. Bojio watched with interest. She took the mineral water and thanked him before starting to study the child. "Isn't it tiring to carry a keyboard around?" The little person took another bottle of mineral water and replied, "I'm used to it." "Bo bo bo, bo she, bo he raising he raised." Chapter 15:11. Bojio's smile deepened. "As expected, you look the same." "What do you mean?" The little person didn't understand. Bojio took a sip of water and leaned against the wall lazily. "My boyfriend looked like you when he was young. He had a poker face and was adorable." The little person shifted her body. She was still carrying her school bag. "I'm a girl. MH." Bojio glanced down and glanced at the little person's short hair. "I couldn't tell." The little person noticed her gaze and caressed her head. "If you cut it like this, you'll look like my brother. We can take turns doing things." "You have a brother?" Bojio arched a brow. The little person replied, "MH." Bojio liked children. She was probably influenced by the Almighty when he was young. The more she looked at the little person, the more interesting she seemed. "What's your name? How old are you?" "Mobe 13.5. The little person always had the same expression when she answered. Bojio was addicted to teasing her. She tapped her face lightly and said lazily, "Supreme Alliance doesn't hire child labor." As expected, the little person frowned. "Can't I be a trainee first?" "Trainee." Bojio couldn't help but reach out to caress the little person's head. Before she could move, a clear and cold voice came from behind her. "You haven't bought the water yet?" Bojio stopped and glanced over. She saw the handsome face that could make all newbies willingly follow his orders. "I'm almost done. I met an interesting little kid." Chinemo followed her hand and saw a little boy, with his head raised. He was waiting for someone to touch him, his face expressionless. Others might not be able to tell, but as a psychological profiler, he could clearly see that the little boy was not in a calm mood. It was obvious from the mineral water bottle in his hand. Otherwise, his hand would not have clenched so tightly. Even his eyes were deep. It was obvious that he was looking forward to something. Little Bojio had never been able to resist good-looking kids since she was young. Chinemo reached out and pulled her over. His voice was still calm. "Don't touch me as you please. You're like a weird auntie." "Weird auntie?" Bojio was struck by the description. She was so handsome, how was she like a weird auntie? "All right, let's head back after we're done with the water." Chinemo held onto her hand and walked away. Bojio turned back, not forgetting to give him a faint smile, full of devilish charm. "Let's meet in a while." Chinemo noticed the red keyboard on the back of little boy, and guessed that he was a contestant who had come to participate in the competition. Therefore, he didn't say much. Bojio continued, "Little kid's face is easy to poke." Chinemo arched a brow, turning to look behind him. He saw that the little boy was reaching out and poking his own face. It was obvious that he was nostalgic for something. This made Almighty Chin's eyes sink even deeper. "How old?" "MH." Bojio raised a brow. "How old is he?" Chinemo asked casually. Bojio lifted her thin lips. 13.5, that's a young age. You haven't even passed Supreme Alliance's recruitment age. And you were recruited internally. You seem pretty good. Chinemo didn't say anything else. He glanced in the direction of little boy with a hint of warning. Chapter 15:12. Supreme Alliance's internal selection wasn't usually open to the public. It had been the same when Spade Z had entered. But this year, Supreme Alliance was stronger than ever. They were the national champions and the defending champions of the Asian Cup, making Supreme Alliance a team that almost every young esports fan wanted to join. It was even more so than Xiangnan. Many people were saying that the all-star era of esports was coming. Spade Z and Qin Mo seemed to have become a hot topic. There were many reporters at the entrance of the Qin Group's building. They were all waiting to see who would pass Supreme Alliance's internal test. Due to the large number of newcomers, the internal test was split into 3 batches. Everyone who entered could see Qin Mo and Bojio sitting at the front. Their aura was so strong that when they were playing, they wouldn't dare to face such an opponent in the wilderness. But there were some who weren't afraid. For example, there was a newcomer who wanted to replace Bojio. From his point of view, he could do the same thing with the phrase, "Your wilderness is my home." Everyone was thinking about Spade Z's expression when she heard that, hence, they all turned to look at her. But who knew that she was sucking on her lollipop, acting as though she hadn't heard anything? Her eyes were fixated on a single spot. The newcomer felt that he was being looked down upon. His face clearly unhappy. "Just you wait, I will definitely show you my ability, Spade Z." Lin Feng listened by the side, unable to resist sharing it in the chat group. A newcomer wants to challenge little Spade. A newcomer is still young, he hasn't been tricked yet. It's normal for him to have such thoughts. The world's most handsome fatty sighed. What did little Spade say? Did he beat him until he called him daddy? Lin Feng sent an emoji of a finger wagging. She didn't say anything. She seems to be in a daze, probably thinking about what to eat later. Captain's candy has already been emptied. Coco. That's why you are sitting there, being a third wheel. Lin Feng. Don't be so harsh. The world's most handsome fatty. It's simple, Yin who can go as well. Lin Feng switched off his phone before turning it on. Chat normally. I've heard of that newcomer, he's not bad. Someone sent a personal message. The most handsome fatty in the world. This ID looks familiar. He came to Xiangnan before. Running in both directions? Lin Feng raised his eyebrows. World's most handsome fatty. No, he looked down on our team and said he wanted to join the champion team. Lin Feng. For some reason, I feel very foolish and naive. Why didn't I have such thoughts when I was young? Wait a minute. There seems to be a situation. Situation? What's going on? Zhao Sampeng was so anxious that he even started a private chat. F***CK, Lin Feng, why did you stop talking? Is little Spade fighting with the newbie? Tell her not to be soft-hearted. Young people need to hit hard. Lin Feng. Little submissive Lin? Yin who's domestic slave. Lin Feng. F***CK, what are you talking about? It's my family that raised him, understand? Zhao Sampeng chuckled, and was about to mock him. Another voice came from the other side. Ha ha ha, that newbie was beaten up by a kid. Zhao Sampeng. A child? Lin Feng didn't reply because he was looking at the screen excitedly. He turned to ask Bojio. You've been looking at this kid since the beginning. Chapter 15:13. Bojio leaned forward and supported her chin with one hand. She smiled lazily. It's easy to notice a good-looking face. Lin Feng's face darkened. I thought you were looking at the little boy's skills. What little boy? Bojio glanced up and corrected him seriously. He's a handsome little girl. Lin Feng widened his eyes. Little girl? That didn't seem like it. Qin Mo didn't think so. Bojio had always treated a good-looking child as a girl since she was young. Her words couldn't be trusted. To increase her credibility, she said, If you don't believe me, I'll call him over and you can ask him. Regardless of whether he's a boy or a girl, I won't let you bring him home. So, with that, Qin Mo reached out and pinched her chin. Look at his results and grade him. Bojio twirled the pen in her hand. Brother Mo, I don't have to grade him. You saw his hand speed just now, he's comparable to Zhao Sampeng. Zhao Sampang, who wasn't present. What? Qin Emo replied slowly. It sounds like you admire him. Brother Emo, Bojio suddenly leaned over. Don't be jealous of a child. Be good. Qin Mo's fingers paused, the tip of his pen slightly tilted. Sit back down. Bojio laughed. She didn't change her expression and continued to list the child's merits. Outstanding positioning, able to turn the tables against the wind, and able to control the rhythm of consciousness. This child is suited to be a jungler. If he's in our team, he can increase the team's attractiveness. Lin Feng interrupted. If we increase the attractiveness, people will say that Supreme Alliance chooses its members based on looks. Bojio glanced over and thought for a moment. Looking at your beautiful face, you should know who we are. Lin Feng. I can't continue the conversation. The newbies who were still testing were all wearing earphones. They couldn't hear what the three of them were talking about. But just by looking at the screen in front of them, they could feel that the person with the ID bay was really amazing. They weren't sure if it was intentional, but she purposely grabbed one person to beat. The newbie who had wanted to challenge Spadesy was going crazy. Hey, what's wrong with you? Little Mo Bay didn't say anything and continued to move forward. To her, this person wasn't qualified to challenge Godzi. That rookie never expected that he would be beaten up before he could even make it through the internal competition. Moreover, it was someone he had never heard of before. One had to know that he had a fanbase. The rookie was still thinking of counterattacking and teaching his opponent a lesson. But the match had already been stopped. The first blood rule was that whoever got first blood first would be the winner. The rookie was filled with indignation. He believed that he was young and had a bright future ahead of him. After taking off his earphones and standing up, he requested for a rematch. Bojio glanced at him and stood up, her silver hair falling down. How do you want to compete? The newbie was forced to take a step back. He also could not understand why the other party, who was only a year older than him, had such a sharp aura. But if he released it, he would not take it back. Let's have a 5v5. Bojio moved her wrist, replying slowly. There's no need for a 5v5. At this point, she glanced sideways. Bae, come over and fight with me. Let's play 2v4. Godzi knew that person. Chapter 15-14. The little boy wasn't tall and his dressing was a little rustic. She didn't know which era his sportswear was from. Thanks to his face, he looked fair and handsome. Otherwise, no one would be interested in seeing her dressed up like this. However, this wasn't the main point. The main point was this the bae who was fierce when fighting just now? They couldn't tell at all. Also, wasn't she a little too young? Everyone had to lower their eyes when they looked at Mo Bae. Under normal circumstances, twins of the same egg would have less nutrition than others. When they were young, they wouldn't be very big. In addition, Mo Bae's clothes looked like she had borrowed someone else's, which made her look even younger. Everyone had a look of disbelief on their faces. They couldn't connect the person in front of them with the assassin in the game. On the other hand, Bojio lifted her thin lips and waved at her. Little Mo Bae walked over. She raised her small face and didn't have any emotions. If it's 2 against 4, I need to change the keyboard I brought. Are you used to using the red keyboard? Sure. Bojio reached out and took out the keyboard from her backpack. Then she turned her body sideways and found a random computer. She changed the keyboard. Her movements were so fast that people wondered if she was a professional. Changing the keyboard was a common thing for Bojio. After adjusting it, she pressed the restart button of the computer. She leaned there and smiled. Who said he wanted to fight just now? Come on. The newbie watched from the side. He didn't know why, but he wanted to retreat. He thought that his skills were already very good among his peers. But he didn't expect that the person who defeated him just now was a child. Now the two of them were going to join forces. But what if he won? If he really won, it would be said that he defeated Spadesy. This topic was too tempting for him. The newbie smiled. It's me. Sit. Bojio tilted her face. Her silver hair fluttered with her movements. The newbie sat down and found 3 friends that he often played with. They were here for the internal testing. The newbies sitting in front of the computer were both excited and afraid to compete with Spade Z. They couldn't suppress their opponent, so they looked at each other, their nervousness obvious. What's there to be afraid of? Our skills aren't bad. We didn't become a professional team just because we didn't participate in the previous matches. Besides, it's a 4v2 right now. It's not certain who will win. The newbie had a good idea. Moreover, both of them are assassins. Their positions are conflicting. There are only so many resources in the wilderness. If they dare to come to our wilderness, the four of us will surround them and make sure they never return. When the newcomer said this, he seemed to have forgotten that Spade Z was an all-rounder. She could play any position. Hence, when Spade Z chose the tank team, the rookie was dumbfounded. What was going on? Not only that, choosing Tanfu was one thing. You're even bringing a jungler? Wait a minute. Spade Z's team was a double jungler. Everyone turned towards the little boy and Bojio. The top 20 players in the internal testing arena were crowding around them. They stretched their necks to take a look. Even Lin Feng was interested. Captain, isn't this the first time Little Spade is assisting someone other than you? Chapter 15:15. Lin Feng felt a chill down his spine. He silently took half a step back. Their captain was indeed extremely possessive when he was in love. He and Coco had discussed this problem in the past. They didn't know who would be so unlucky to be fancied by their captain. They definitely wouldn't have any freedom. But after that, their captain treated Little Spade well. Basically, Little Spade did whatever she wanted. Hence, they didn't think too much about it. Now it seemed like jealousy had never stopped. Qin Mo didn't look at Lin Feng, who was standing beside him. Instead, he walked towards the place where everyone was gathered. He could faintly hear a clear and smiling voice. Don't be nervous. It was Bojio. She wore a black earpiece and waved the mouse with her right hand. She skimmed towards the enemy's wilderness while comforting the person beside her. MH, Little Mob replied. Her small face didn't show any emotions. She had a poker face as she clicked the mouse and followed. Through the big screen, everyone could clearly see the overall situation. Qin Mo didn't seem interested in the overall situation. He reached out and pulled a chair over. He sat behind Bojio. His long legs were long and slender. His side profile was handsome. His aura seemed calm, but no one dared to come over. In an instant, the surroundings became much quieter. To a certain extent, this also ensured that everyone who played the game would think the same way. There were so many people walking around. Even though their discussions couldn't pass through the earpiece, it still affected their concentration. In the game, Bojio had already crossed the river. She hid in the bushes and aimed at the opponent's blue buff. The commander on this side was still hesitating, because he couldn't predict whether the opponent would come. After all, the game was filled with fog. As long as he was in an area, he would be able to see the opponent's position. Now, because he wasn't sure, they were all there. The newbie couldn't act rashly. But based on Spade Z's usual playstyle, she would definitely turn into the wilderness the moment she came up. But now, did the opponent have a red buff or a blue buff? The two beasts weren't in the same area. Just as the newbie was hesitating, all of a sudden he was hit by a stun spell. Bojio was indeed in the wilderness. But she didn't snatch the red and blue buff. Instead, her first attack landed on the opponent's assassin. The newcomer hurriedly gave the order to gather. The other three all rushed over, afraid that Spade Z would leave with the head. After all, anyone who had played in Zone C knew how vicious Spade Z was when it came to killing. At the start, the newbie took a step back. Now that everyone was here, he immediately rushed forward, intending to retaliate. Just like what he said before, if they dared to come to the wilderness, they would surround them. But what they didn't expect was that Spade Z would change her tough style and retreat to the bottom of the tower. What did that mean? No one could understand if Spade Z wasn't sitting right in front of them. They thought they had met an imposter. After all, Spade Z's style had always been to kill a monster in the opponent's jungle. But today, it seemed like he didn't dare to start a war. It seems like Spade Z is just SOSO. The newbie gleefully took down his blue bundles. I haven't met them before, but now that I have, we won't give you a single one of them. Chapter 15-16. The crowd erupted into cheers. That was because they could clearly see on the screen that their side of the jungle had been cleared with a red buff. Spadesy didn't come to the enemy's blue buff to take their blue buff. Instead, she played a beautiful diversion. She used herself to divert the enemy's attention so that little Mo Bay could sweep the other half of the enemy's jungle. The crowd was starting to explode. But that wasn't the end. Spadesy, who had cleared the minions, jumped towards the red buff area and blocked the opponent's ADC. She used her own move and stunned him. The three of them were shaken to the spot. At this moment, Mo Bay, who had taken the red buff, leaped forward and attacked the ADC until his HP was low. The newbie reacted and hurried over to support. The ADC's positioning wasn't a problem. He used sprinting to retreat and hurriedly pressed the return button. Only then did he avoid the danger of losing 1 HP. The opponent's sorcerer was also frightened by this violent fighting style. He didn't dare to leave the tower. Spadesy was really fierce. Her fierceness was usually unexpected. You didn't know when the opponent would suddenly explode. She could even do something as crazy as crossing the tower. But because she grasped the opponent's mentality, Bojo didn't have any intention of retreating. When she saw the newcomer, she moved nimbly and avoided his attack. She turned into the bushes and leaped forward, knocking the assassin out. When little Mo Bay saw this, she dashed forward again. After her jungling skills were maxed out, she could directly slow down the opponent. After being stunned, she was slowed down and was hit by a series of attacks. The newbie didn't have much HP left. He shouted for reinforcements. The opponent's people were indeed rushing over. But because they didn't manage to get any resources or minions, they only cared about intercepting Spadesy. Their economic foundation determined their equipment. Their awareness wasn't there, and their speed wasn't fast. Hence, their reinforcements were half a beat slower. The newbie gritted his teeth and was about to press the maxed-out jungling skill to slow down the opponent's speed. But he didn't expect to be stunned again. Spadesy's support skill shot out something that looked like a strip. It could cause damage from a distance. The newbie was waiting to recover, but in the next second he paused. He watched as the player dashed to his side and used a max-level jungling skill to reduce his speed once again. Not only did the player get close to him, but he also dealt lethal damage to him. He, who had always dominated the jungle and was known as a jumping hero, did not even have a chance to jump. There was a deafening special effect in the game. First blood. The first drop of blood. Who has the head? People subconsciously turned to look. Words appeared on the screen. Spadesy. Using support to take the first HP? And the one he killed was an assassin. Deafening cheers rang out in the small private venue. It was the truth of the words fans often used to describe her. Who said I wanted to attack your monster? I'm going to hit you and take the red and blue beasts from you. The other party was already feeling a little numb from this kind of heavenly performance. In the past, he didn't think much of it when he watched the competition. After all, they had always believed that Spadesy's defeat was mostly due to her positioning or maneuvering. If it had been them, they definitely wouldn't have done such a thing. After all, Spadesy's moves weren't invincible. But when they sat down and fought with Spadesy, they realized that Spadesy was the real deal. There were some things that you couldn't think of, and even if you did, you wouldn't be able to keep up. It was a different feeling from being able to look at the entire map from the audience's perspective. They couldn't even guess what Spadesy wanted to do. Originally, he wanted to watch the operation at the beginning. He thought that the other side was worried about the 2v4 and wanted to hold back a little, so he wouldn't be too aggressive. He didn't expect that her target from the start wasn't anyone else, but the assassin from their family. There was a principle in playing this game. As long as you can suppress the opponent's assassin, then the wild zone will basically be yours. It seemed like Spadesy wasn't worried at all. It was because they had used conventional methods to think of her style of play, and they had thought of it wrongly. Someone shouted, FC King Godsy. All that was left in the surroundings were the shouts. Some of the opponents wanted to stop Spadesy, But when they saw that her HP didn't seem to have dropped, they stopped. All of a sudden, he lost all thoughts of intercepting them. But even if they didn't stop her, it didn't mean that Spadesy wouldn't take the initiative to attack. She already had a kill on her, so she had pulled away from the opponent in terms of finances. In addition, their little assassin was hiding in the bushes at the side. Bojio didn't hesitate. She leaped forward and used the special skill of dizziness. That was when the audience realized that in the seemingly easy operation, there was a shocking technique involved. Up until now, no one had been able to accurately hit Spadesy. On the other hand, the damage she dealt was able to knock out 2 opponents at once, and her attacks didn't miss. Achieving this sounded like a very thin task. But when it reached the extreme, hand speed, prediction, consciousness, passive moves, familiarity with the map, and even the key points of the opponent's skills, all of these required the operator to be incomparably familiar with them. Not everyone could reach this step. Not everyone was Spadesy. Even though this was the first time they played together, little Mo-Bay, who was extremely cooperative with Bojio, leaped over the moment the 2 opponents were knocked out. Her target was the fragile ADC. The ADC didn't have a red buff on him. Even if he resisted, he could only deal a little damage. At this moment, Bojio followed over. She used her max-level jungling skills and forcefully reduced the ADC's speed. This time, the ADC didn't escape. Little Mo-Bay twisted her wrist, and with a beautiful movement, she successfully took down the opponent's head. Did she think it was over just like that? How was that possible? Bojio sat in front of the computer with her black earphones on, and a smile on her face. This meant that she had locked onto her next target. The opponent's tank wanted to cut off their back in order to protect their sorcerer. But he didn't expect that Spadesy didn't go for their sorcerer. Instead, she turned back and hit him with a stun. Little Mo-Bay didn't say anything when she saw this. With such a high level of cooperation and the whole set of damage, even a tank would lose some HP. The newbie on the other side saw this and immediately rushed over. Even if he couldn't kill Spadesy, he would be able to bring this arrogant child away to regain some face. After all, once the assassin's damage was used up, he was basically useless. But just as he was about to come in with his spear, a voice suddenly rang out. But in the next second he froze. It was another jungling skill that slowed him down. Chapter 15-17. The opponent didn't manage to provide support in time, and lost another player. The newbie wanted to retreat when he saw that his sneak attack wasn't successful. But when he turned around, he realized that he was too dumb and naive. Spadesy had already used her big move. How could she let him go? She leaped forward and used the formation she brought out to lock the newbie in place. The newbie seemed to have been electrocuted. He couldn't move at all. Moreover, little Mo-Bay was there too. Even if she didn't have any more moves, her long sword would still be able to cause a certain amount of damage. But the highest damage came from Spadesy's big move. The newbie watched as his HP was sucked dry. He didn't even have the strength to retaliate. He couldn't even jump over the wall. It's no wonder Spadesy chose this hero character. This auxiliary tank was originally used to counter assassins. Anyone who plays as an assassin knows that the most terrifying thing is to be controlled. I want to know how that person feels right now. He can't even jump. It's so pitiful. He must be doubting his life from being controlled. Spadesy is using his jungler skills as a control too. This logic tells us not to challenge Almighty Z. The entire game ended. Mo-Bay was either hiding in the bushes or Bojio was hiding in the bushes. They took all the resources in the opponent's jungle. Then they split into 2 groups to clear the enemy. They didn't even take their own jungle. First, they broke through the tower. After equipping themselves with blood-sucking equipment, they didn't even have the intention to return to the city. The newbie's words were like a slap to his own face. He didn't even let the opponent take a single wild beast. He was the one who couldn't get anything. In the end, he reacted and wanted to go to the opponent's jungle to counterattack. But he forgot something. If he did that, he would waste a lot of time. Hence, he hadn't reached the middle stage yet. There was a fatal economic gap between the 2 teams. But Master Bojio didn't intend to drag the competition to the later stages. Just 3 words: beat, hammer, and be tough. The opponent's ADC was trembling in fear. Almighty Z, is it okay for a support to be so fierce? But anyone who calmed down and studied professional competitions would definitely realize that. If the support played well, it could easily become the key to victory. This game was meant to counter and kill each other. It all depended on how you used it. Everyone thought that it would be over after pushing the tower. Unexpectedly, Spade Z and Mo Bay hid near the bushes by the river at the same time. He didn't move at all, and no one knew what he was doing. The rookie leaped over and wanted to demolish the tower. But before he could jump, Spade Z froze him in place. Basically, once Bojio pinned him down, she would bring him away. From the beginning to the end, the opponent's score was 0. As an assassin, the newbie was unable to perform at all. It was because he had been restrained for too long. Seeing the city being destroyed, his face turned ashen. They lost even in a 4 versus 2 fight. Not to mention a duel. Moreover, the rookie also knew that he would be beaten up even more badly if he were to fight one-on-one. Right now, Spade Z was still using support. What if she used her best assassin skills? The rookie did not dare to think further. He took off his earphones as the burning sensation on his face had not stopped since the beginning. Bojio smiled lazily. She wanted to ask, is it time to call him daddy? However, when his gaze fell on the little person sitting next to her, he retracted his hand. It's not good to lead children astray. Chapter 15:18. Are you done? Chinmo's voice rose slowly. If one listened carefully, it sounded cold. Bojio took a step back. Then, she seemed to have thought of something. She used the slide of the chair to reach Chinmo's side, and stood up. She placed one hand on the chair, and tilted her head. In front of everyone, she planted a kiss on the side of his face. Her silver hair fell down. She was still that handsome and arrogant youngster. I'm done. I'm asking for a reward from Captain. This time Chinmo smiled. He pulled her to his side, and looked towards the newbies who were stunned. The top 5 in terms of data stay behind. Little Mo Bay stood up. She carried her school bag, and stood at the front of the line. Chinmo swept her a glance and didn't say anything. But he knew that this little boy was in a good mood. Little Mo Bay was indeed in a good mood. Even though there wasn't any emotion on her face, she was happy inside. She hadn't expected to be able to play with Almighty Z. Besides, she seemed to have touched her head just now. With this thought, little Mo Bay reached out and touched her head. Chinmo's gaze deepened. He left the rest to Lin Feng. He dragged a certain someone to the office on the top floor, and locked the door. Bojio still didn't understand what was going on. The Almighty pressed her onto the office sofa and started kissing her. All he could smell was the faint scent of mint. His thin lips pressed against her ear, and even his voice carried a trace of numbness. Did you have a good time playing games just now? Immersing. It's nothing much. Bojio's body trembled. When she felt his hand sliding in, even her eyes started to tear up. Chinmo held her waist and lowered his gaze. When are you going to change the fact that you want to bring a good-looking child home to raise? I only want to raise one. Bojio immediately understood the reason. Chinmo arched a brow. Then why did you help her? Brother Mo, she is really a little girl. Bojio felt that she had to make things clear. Chinmo smirked. When you first met me, you said I was a little girl too. Bojio. Did he hold a grudge for so long? Lin Feng is still there. You can ask him, Bojio suggested. Chinmo leaned forward. He will ask. We will solve your problem slowly. What else do I have, The rest of Bojio's words were replaced by kisses and hands. Chinmo was really jealous. Even when he was young, he didn't want to be surpassed. A numbness spread from her tailbone. Bojio was locked in his embrace, and moving would only bring her closer to him. His hands were under her clothes, and the strength of his kneading was impossible to resist. Even if it was through the friction of his trousers, it was the same. Bojio wanted to move, but he pressed her long legs down, his voice still beside her ear. In the future, don't touch other people's heads so casually, understand? That voice was a little heavy. The air in the room was heating up bit by bit. The more he behaved this way, the more she could see his seductive side. Once that handsome face was stained with other things. It was like a noble god falling from the sky. There was a faint evil aura on it, making people want to be controlled by him more. Chinemo wasn't going to let her off just like that. Chapter 15:19. The numbness engulfed her like a wave. This time, it seemed to be stronger than any other time. He had purposely targeted the spot where she couldn't take it. This was probably the Almighty's punishment. The frosted glass blocked everything. It was still cold outside, but the heat in the room couldn't be stopped. When Chinemo leaned over again, she could see the sweat rolling down his face. The sight of him in his uniform made her want to snap him in half and imprison him in her arms. Bojio had nowhere to put her hands. She could only wrap them around his neck. Her thoughts were completely blank. The only thing she could feel was her racing pulse. Step by step, it was mixed with the sound of their heartbeats. It was as if someone had set fire to their bodies. Even the mole under the corner of her eye seemed to be shimmering with tears. Chinemo watched her, his gaze darkening. When it reached a certain level, he stopped and hugged her, burying his handsome face into her shoulder. His breathing was heavy. "I won't stop after you get into a university. There are still 2 more months." Bojio was in her uniform. Other than that, her white shirt was open to her waist, her fair arms hanging by the side. Her beautiful eyes were still a little dreamy, like a black swan that had just been fished out of the water. Her silver hair and snow-white skin were so beautiful that it made him want to continue. With a twitch of his fingers, he pulled his uniform over and wrapped it around her before hugging her in his arms. Bojio felt his heat and knew it was best not to move. The temperature gradually dropped, but it wasn't easy to get rid of his thoughts. Chinemo glanced at her again. This time, he stood up and walked into the bathroom in the office. Bojio could vaguely guess what he was doing when she heard the sound of water. She felt her face heating up. She decided to divert her attention, taking a bottle of chilled mineral water from the small fridge. When the temperature of his body dropped, Chinemo came out. His black hair was chilly. He wasn't wearing a shirt, only a pair of long pants. There were still water droplets on his thighs. His eyes were so deep that one couldn't look away. Bojio took another sip of mineral water. She couldn't be seduced so easily. In the end, she would be the one with the backache. However, she couldn't go out in her current state. His neck and collarbone were covered in marks, and his shirt was wrinkled to the point where one could tell what they had done at a glance. The smart Bojio knew that the Almighty was doing it on purpose. Chinemo didn't leave her alone. He reached out and snatched the bottle of mineral water from her hand. "What are you thinking about? That kid just now?" "No." Bojio smiled. She leaned over, wanting to take advantage of the Almighty since he had just come out of the bathroom. She couldn't control herself. "I was thinking about you." Chinmo's eyes moved. He turned his head to look at her. Then he suddenly smiled. He emptied one hand and lifted her chin. He slowly moved closer but didn't kiss her. His breath landed on her lips again and again. "You should think about your physics results. You'll have tutoring later." "Bojio, is this boyfriend biological?" You're tuning in to the Echoes of the Heart YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.